Hi, welcome back to day 3 of NaNoWriMo. I've already filled out our pre-writing journal. I'm keeping it a low target word count tonight because it's Sunday and I didn't have really the best day of days. So I don't really want to do much of this today. So I'm going to stick to just probably one scene and then I think that will be it. So this should be a fairly short video. I do want to remind you guys, if you're watching this, don't forget to like each video that you see if you want to see more. At some point, I'm going to make a decision whether to keep going with the recordings or just do all this in my own time. So the fewer likes I see, the more likely we'll end early, probably by day 7. So just bear that in mind if you do want to see beyond day 7. Just hit the like button. All right. All right, with that said, let's get started on day 3. I do need to set my tippy-tappy type. And then our reminder for yesterday. All right, Jack wanders the streets of Willemstad in search of cheap food and comes across, that should be a bakery. A bakery with some of the best bread in the Caribbean. He buys the bread and takes it back to the meeting site where he uses the bread to upset his troop leader. His action means he will now have a terrible role in the play. So if we recall, he upset the group leader when he refused to give him a piece of bread. So that may come into play later. Whether that will happen in today's writing session remains to be seen. So let's get started. So he's in the building. We're probably not going to be there on this scene. All right. The rest of the troop found its way to the ugly place within the hour, and most of them were either tired or drunk or both. In total, there, let's see, the troop, which went by the name Happy Play Bodies. I like that. Happy Play Bodies. Let's see, the troop, which went by the name Happy Play Bodies, consisted of 8 people. All younger than 35. Let's see, the troop, which went by the name Happy, all younger than 35. And all, with the exception of Jack and young lady named Mabel. We're all from, let's see, I don't want to do any stereotypes, so all from England. Alright, so the rest of the troop found its way to the ugly place in the hour. Most of them were either tired or drunk or both. On arrival, the troop, which by the name Happy Play Bodies, consisted of 8 people. How about all 8 young actors, all 35, all 35 and down, or how about all between the ages of 18 and 35, no exception of Jack and young lady and Mabel, were from England. Let's see. Jack had been part of this theater system since he was 15, but he had spent his first 4 years performing with a troupe. Let's see, forming with a local troupe in his home territory. Let's see, the rest of the troupe found its way to every place within the hour, and most of them were either tired or drunk or both on arrival. The troupe, which went by the name Play Bodies, consists of 8 young actors, all between the ages of 18 and 35, and all, with the exception of Jack and the young lady Mabel, were from England. Let's see, we're from, we'll call it the land of the King, England. Jack had been part of the theater system since he was 15, but he had spent his first 4 years performing a local troupe in his home territory. Back in the colonies, in a locale called Carolina. That can't be historically accurate. So part of the problem I'm looking at now as I write this and as I'm conceptualizing more, as I'm beginning to realize that the likelihood of American actor cohorting with British actors is a little unusual given the time. I don't think we were at war with England yet in the 1750s. I think that came later, but they definitely weren't happy with us. I think we were still under their system, right? I gotta go back and research that. So it might be that this is feasible. In fact, this might even be an expected arrangement, because England's got to control everything in the 1750s and colonies. So perhaps they have a thumb on the theater system in England or in America too. So that's what I'm thinking. So maybe we'll run with that. Right. Jack's original troupe. I don't think we need to know the name. Jack's original troupe was let's see, was a little more than an annex. Let's see. Jack's original troupe was part of a larger organization headed by the British government. Let's see. Maybe it was the arm of a larger organization headed by the British government. Let's see. Inserted into the colonies as a means to keep tabs on them and perhaps a little extra dramatic control. Let's see. Although Shakespeare was still the most acted playwright of his, although Shakespeare is the most acted playwright of his time, let's see, during his early years, the British wanted to ensure that colonial see, although Shakespeare is the most active playwright during his early years, the British wanted to make sure that colonial plays did not deviate from the expected Jack's original troop was the arm of a large organization led by the British government and started into the colony. Maybe, do I even need to capitalize colonies? I think I do. Let's see. Jack's original troop was the arm of a larger organization led by the British government and started into the colonies as a means to keep tabs on them and perhaps a little extra dramatic control. Although Shakespeare was still the most active playwright during his early years, the British wanted to ensure that colonial plays did not deviate from the expected message. We'll just say messages for now. I don't quite know what I want to say there yet. Did not deviate from the expected messages. So performance leaders inserted, let's see, inserted select critics. See, Jack's relationship is blah blah blah. Okay, so performance leaders inserted critics into each community where drama was performed to make sure that none of the plays all of the plays, let's see, performed only Shakespeare, with the exception of King Lear. Okay, which they worried would spark a revolution in the colonies. We're just going to go with it. I'll go back and review King Lear another time. I have no idea if that reference even makes sense. It's probably way off, but I'm just... this is one of the things I probably should have done off camera, honestly. It's, I'm not used to doing historical fiction at all. So, I'm really going in blind here. Let's see. The happy play bodies. Let's see. Had originally come to the Carolinas to help Jack's troop, or Jack's local troop, perform a more involved let's see, play. Who had originally come to Carolinas to help Jack perform a more involved play, where a dozen actors were required on stage at once. Who had originally come to the Carolinas to help Jack perform a more involved play where a dozen actors required on stage at once. At the time, it was appreciated. Let's see, it's Happy Play Body said, originally coming to the Carolinas to help Jack's local should perform a more involved play where a dozen actors were required on stage at once. However, his local troupe did not appreciate having the British interfere, even if they did need the numbers. So his troop leader had filed a claim against their presence. The complaint had taken several months to reach the British government. Enter the bureaucratic process for appeals, then and return to the colonies with an answer, to which the response had simply said, deal with it. The local troop leader did not want to deal with it, so he quit the troop because Jack's fellow actors had such loyalty to the troop leader, they had quit too. Leaving Jack without a job because Jack's loyalty was to the theater and not to a whiny guy who wore tights for a living. He decided to join the Happy Play Bodies. He assumed that they were in the Carolinas to stay, and by joining them, he would continue to perform at his favorite theater, playing his favorite roles in his favorite plays. But as soon as he had agreed to join them, he found himself on a ship back to England where he was to spend the next 2 years learning the finer points of drama. Let's see. By the time he had come back to the Carolinas to perform for his friends and family, he discovered that his friends had all moved to different territories, and his family still didn't like that he was an actor. No, I don't like any of that. I'm just trying to think of how the whole goal would be pointless if no one really wants him there. All right, because Jack's loyalty was to the theater and not to one guy who wore tights for a living, he decided to join the Happy Play Bodies. He assumed that they were in the Carolinas to stay, and by joining them, he would continue to perform in his favorite theater, playing his favorite roles, his favorite plays. But as soon as he agreed to join them, he found himself on a ship back to England, where he was to spend the next 2 years learning the finer points of drama. By the time he had come back to Carolinas to perform friends and family, he discovered that they were no longer, let's see, he discovered that they wanted something other than Shakespeare, as none of them had really understood what the playwright was on about. Okay, I'm fine with that. All right. The people in Jack's life certainly, let's see, had certainly wanted to support his efforts to entertain the town, so they had come to every show that he was in. But more and more, they thought that he was limiting himself by staying in one place, and that if he were to really become a great actor, he should visit new places and experience new cultures, to which he could then come home and show them what he had learned. Okay, I think this is going to be important paragraphs. I think this is going to help us to figure out why he needs to come back. So part of it is so that he's out here to better himself, but now his goal is to go back to the Carolinas so that he can show them what he's learned. I think that's what we're looking at here. Jack's life had certainly wanted to support his efforts to entertain the town, so they'd come to every show that he was in, but more and more they thought he was limiting himself. Maybe they had thought, but more and more they had thought that he was limiting himself by staying on place, and that if he were to really become a great actor, he would need he would need to visit. He would need to visit places. Oh, visit new places. Experience new cultures, which he could then come home and show them what he had learned. And make them all better, more culturally aware citizens. I wonder, maybe the Happy Play Bodies is the group he came back with? Let's see, hold on. The Happy Play Bodies version coming to Carolinas. You know what, we're going to move on. I don't want to bore you guys with all my extra overthinking here. I'm going to probably do all this stuff off camera. When I update my journal, I'll make note of it. I think, I don't know, do we want it in there? I already broke the 500 word barrier. I don't know. I think we can probably do a little bit more. See, well, I know the Happy Play Bodies had agreed with Jack's friends and told him that if he wanted to keep performing with them, then he would need to pack an overnight sack full of his best clothing and board the wagon. Board one of the wagons to New Amsterdam, where they would spend a few months making the dramatic rounds. I'm saying New Amsterdam. I just, in my research the other day, I found out that was what New York used to be. So, just saying, it's not New York. When I say New Amsterdam, I mean New York. All right, Happy Play Buddies had agreed with Jack's friends. Happy Play Buddies had agreed with Jack's friends' assessment and told Jack, let's see, if he wanted to keep performing with him, and he would need to pack an overnight sack full of his best clothing and board one of the wagons to New Amsterdam. Spent a few months making the dramatic rounds. From there, it was a matter of demand. That demand had taken them to Philadelphia, London, St. Augustine, and most recently Havana. Let's see. Now that they were moving south, they had their sights set on going to Brazil and entertaining the growing community. I don't know which kind. I think it's the Jewish community down there, based on my research, but I'm not sure. I gotta go back and review what that said. Now that they were moving south, had their sights set on going to Brazil and entertaining the growing blank community. And now that they were moving south, they had their sights. And looking at sea, and now that they were moving south, they had their sights set on going to Brazil and where they could get a permanent foothold on the South American drama market. After that, they had yet to decide, but for now they were going to test their market on the people of Curacao to make sure that people outside of England or the colonies were even interested in what they were offering. So far, they had found that the people of Havana were responsive in that they had lobbed the freshest fruits the island had to offer at them as they exited the stage. They had, let's see, the members of the Happy Play Bodies had all agreed that if they were really hated, then the people would have used rotten fruit. Okay. All right. Let's see. So far they had found that the people of Havana were responsive and that they had lobbed the freshest fruits offer. Maybe just lobbed at them. First fruits they only had to offer. As each member of the Happy Play Bodies. Let's see. Okay, each member had agreed that if the people were really hated, oh no, sorry, if they were, and then the people would have used rotten fruit. Okay. They came. See, they had come to Curacao on the advice of their, I forget what I call them, a traveling agent? A travel agent? I don't know. It doesn't matter right now. They'd come to Curacao on the advice of the travel agent because the island was one of the busiest commercial let's see, commercial harbors, or had one, because the island had one of the busiest commercial harbors in the Caribbean. And let's see, travelers, all backgrounds, had found their way here. The hope was that these travelers would have the hope was that these travelers would find some entertainment while they stayed on the island overnight, and that their troop could be the one to entertain them, because these traders had fat pockets. Let's see, Ernest. Let's see, the troop assumed that they could end the night with fat pockets. Their first test was in less than 20 hours, and the members of the Happy Play Bodies needed their sleep to make sure they could be up in time to check out the theater and practice their new play. Let's see. Should actually be a new paragraph. First test in 20. As they gathered in the reception area, they discussed their findings, but because most of them were too drunk or tired to move another step, they agreed that the ugly place was just as fine of an establishment as the king, so they agreed to stay. The fee for each let's see. As it turned out, the fee for one night at the ugly place was 5 guilders a night. It's 5 guilders, which was just a bit more than what Jack had in his pocket. He asked, let's see, as it turned out, the fee for one night, the place is 5 guilders, which is just a bit more. He asked each troop member for some help. It turned out the fee for one night at the other place is 5 guilders, which is just a bit more than what Jack had in his pocket. So he asked. So he asked each troop member for some help. I'm just wondering, is he too proud to ask? I think he's too proud to ask. Let's see, how about this? He considered asking each troop member for a little help, a few cents here, a few cents there, but he wasn't certain he wanted to earn the reputation of beggar among these fancy actors, among these otherwise fancy people. He didn't fully understand the British, but he knew they were far more sophisticated than he was, and to come to them with some element of urgency. Urgency? No. But he knew that they were far more sophisticated than he was, and to come to them with some element of poverty, maybe? And come to them with his palms wide open, would fully understand British, but he knew they were far more sophisticated than he was, and to come to them would undoubtedly lower him in their sights. It was better if he were to beg on the streets after they all went to bed. So when they all bid each other good night and he followed them toward the rooms, he kept walking past them as if he were headed to the farthest room, and then turn right back around as the last person entered his room. He found himself back on the streets Willemstad. Moments later. Found stuff back on the streets of Willemstad just moments later. Out of sight of the ugly place and any window it may have had on his desperate action. Okay. And of any window may have had opened on his display. Okay, so we're going to stop there. 11:21. We'll go ahead and mark it for the night. So it's a little better than I anticipated. Definitely not a 2,000 word night like we probably would want, but I honestly wasn't expecting to get anything done today. I was in kind of that mood. I just, I did it because you should. You should honestly do what you can to, to actually dedicate yourself to the writing process, even if you don't feel like it. But today is definitely one of those words I just did not feel like it at all. So I'm glad today's over. I hope you did watch it. I'll fill in my post session later and all that. But thanks for watching. We'll see how tomorrow goes. Tomorrow will be Monday. It'll be a work day for me. I may be tired. So it may be another short video. If you're still watching now and you come back tomorrow, I guess you can expect something that's probably also going to be under 2,000 words. But we'll see. Anyway, hope you're liking this so far. We will get to some action stuff here shortly, hopefully. So, all right, bye.